Hi everyone, it's Nerida here. This is my day 5 of my 12 days of Christmas. This is 12 little tips and tricks for textile designers, artists and illustrators out there who are looking to monetize their work. So today's little gift or tip or trick, I'm going to talk about the brain actually. And what has the brain got to do with the surface pattern industry? Well, I'll tell you in a minute. Have you ever heard of the amygdala? So the amygdala is a part of the brain that actually helps create emotional responses. So this, you would have heard of something called the fight or flight response. That happens in that part of the brain called the amygdala. Now, what has this got to do with surface art? Well, so often I get approached by artists who say, oh my gosh, I'm so scared of negotiating with buyers. And how do I negotiate? How do I set my prices? How do I get the confidence to actually talk to them in the way that, it's going to get the result that I want? So it's something, selling your art, I know for most of you, is something that you really, really fear. So let me tell you why this happens. And a lot of you say to me, oh, it's because I'm an artist. I don't have the skills. I don't have, the capacity, and I've never had to do it before. There's lots of reasons. And you put yourself down about not having the skill to negotiate and sell your work. But did you know that it's actually not just artists or creatives that have this problem? Every single human being will go into fight or flight response using this part of the brain called amygdala whenever they feel threatened. And for some reason, negotiations are threatening to most of us. So don't worry, it's not just you as a creative or an artist, it's all of us. So how do we overcome this problem of going into fight or flight response when we're negotiating? So what happens, and this has been actually studied through EEG brain analysis. So what actually happens when somebody feels challenged is they get what's called the amygdala hijack. And that part of the brain is hijacked, and it's hijacking your emotional response. So that's why it's called the amygdala hijack, because you actually can't, move through, because that part of your brain that's going to negotiate casually and calmly is actually hijacked, and you actually can experience flutters in the stomach, heart palpitations. This stuff is real, guys. It's not just because you don't have the skill or experience. It's because it is real physiological phenomenon, the amygdala hijack. So how do we get around that? Well, it is going to take you quite a lot of practice. But the first and foremost thing that we need to do is identify when we are going through this amygdala hijack. So if you do feel nervous, you feel a bit sweaty, your heart's beating, you're really not sure what to say, identifying it and giving yourself that breathing space to really figure out, oh, I'm going into a bit of a fight or flight here. What am I going to do? Did you know that deep breaths can actually trigger a hormone response to calm that? So that's the first thing that you're going to do. Big deep breath. It's going to be okay. Calm the body. And then what I'd like you to do is just hop out of your brain for a second. So, okay, I'm going to hop out of here because this is stressing me out. And I'm going to look from the outside and say, if I wasn't in there being hijacked, what would my response be? Okay, so if I'm nervous, if I don't know what to say, there's a few things that we're going to tackle here. One of them is firstly, being very self-aware and recognizing these negative emotions, stepping outside of it. The next thing, finding some techniques to overcome it. Now, the first and foremost thing that I like to do when I'm a bit nervous and I'm not sure what to say to someone else, take it from me, I am an agent. I have to deal with lots of buyers myself. But what I like to do to sort of manage this situation is put myself in their shoes, and that's just about asking questions. So if I'm not sure what to say, I will say, before we continue the conversation, tell me a bit more about how you like to buy. Do you like to buy? Do you like to license? What do you pay for the top art versus what you pay for the lower end of your art? So open a conversation. Take it away from yourself, take take away the focus of what you need to say and just open up a conversation. This is a good way to express empathy. So we're actually putting ourselves in their shoes, asking them for the information that's going to help us calm and calculate in our minds what we can say in response. So if we've asked that buyer, okay, what do you pay as your, top tier pricing for the best art that you've bought versus your lower tier, then you can think about it and figure out where you might sit and say, well, that's good because my fee is also $1,100, for an outright sale. So, put it back on the buyer, take the focus away from yourself, deep breath, and just ask them some questions to just, calm, take the focus away from what it is that you want to say. So look, just a couple of tips. I can go into this for ages, and I do go into this in more detail in my client and negotiation course on heyartist.com, but it's really important that you just take that deep breath, remove yourself out of that space and try and manage it with a bit of conversation, asking some questions. And then really, I think it's about understanding what your needs are and understanding what their needs are, and then coming together and trying to work out some common ground. But don't panic. As I said, it's not your fault. It's actually a physiological response that all of us have, not just designers and creatives. Lots and lots of people, whenever they negotiate anything, become nervous. So that's good to know, isn't it? That it's not us, it's actually our brains going to an amygdala hijack. So fascinating. I love how we can use the brain in the creative space. I hope that was an interesting tip for you, but I hope it does help a bit with figuring out how you're going to negotiate or how you can continue to negotiate with your clients. So that was the 5th day of Christmas. I will see you all for the 4th. See you later.